we got to help them as a class. They've got a lot of energy, and they're either going to be incredibly spirited your tigers, or they're going to be kind of irritating seniors that are ready to get out. But they have, this group has been sure they really are the most spirited and one of the most engaged classes that we've seen. They care about the school. Just an example is they're just so involved in sports and drama and our plays and musicals. They are just really engaged. Clubs that they're founding, I know we now have a cheer club for the winter sports, and 13 kids signed, and most of them are juniors. Like, this class is just really cares about the school. And that's exciting, and it's exciting that they are starting to think about post-secondary, and that's what this meeting is for. I know that the important stuff is what comes after me, so I'm going to keep my piece really short for you. I will say is that the big message that we want to impress upon them for school here is that they are the leaders of the school. And while post-secondary starts to become the vision for them as they think about courses for next year, which will happen in the next few weeks, that it's also important to help them to understand that they want to create their legacy here. One, as a class, what are they leaving behind? How do they want to be remembered? And also as individuals. Many of them are going to take on leadership roles, whether it's being a captain, or being a lead, or starting an organization. And really encourage them to think about what is the kind of legacy that they want to leave in their school, both as a class, but also as individuals. Because senior really matters. Senior is for all of us, many of us, we all remember our senior year of high school. And certainly by June they want to leave, but over the course of that year, it really matters to them because they are capping off all of the things that they've worked so hard for. So I just would impress upon you to sort of partner with us as we kind of encourage that message with this class. And yes, they are still very rambunctious, but they are certainly in the direction of being, they're going to be a really amazing senior class, and so just help us encourage that with them. I will also say that this current senior class, I don't know if you are following their Instagram page of all of the places they're going next year, but they are really doing extraordinary things. I'm really proud that our post-secondary placements over the last few years have really been quite impressive. You may know that I cite our data on students who got accepted in one of the top 3 universities. We typically were around like 79, 81%. Last year we were at 84% of students who got into one of the top 3 schools. And why I like that is that because we are such a diverse school, that we have students who are applying to some of the most competitive colleges in the world, and students who are looking at niche schools that meet their particular needs, schools that are around different parts of the country, schools that are very local. And so that's why I think it's a very special, that's an important data point for us because it really represents the diversity of our school. I think what we are seeing is that students we have more students who are getting into more competitive colleges than we saw just a few years ago. And the things that we are learning is that, yes, maybe some of the structures that we have shifted in our school over the last few years, but it's actually mainly that they are seeing that our students are doing well in those colleges. And so colleges are saying that they are seeing that Newton North students are excelling, excuse me, in those universities. And so some of the schools that we may a few years ago did not see students getting accepted to, we now have like 2, 3, 4 students getting into some of the Ivy League schools. So that's really exciting for us. And the purpose of tonight is to learn that name does not matter. Happiness matters. And so recognizing that students want to apply to the schools that are going to stretch them, but also the schools that are going to meet their needs because they're going to be there for 4 years. And so that is the purpose of tonight. Before I kick it off, I have one PTO announcement. Christine Dett's going to come up from the PTO to talk to you about a really important event that it's important that junior parents volunteer for because you pay it forward, your kids are going to benefit from it next spring.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. Hi, I'm Christine Dett. I'm one of the co-presidents of the PTSO, and the other co-president, Natalia Aspinall, is not here this evening. She's got a senior. So one of the things that the PTSO pays for is the after prom party Carl celebration. It is free to all of North students because it is entirely supported by the PTSO. It requires our dollars and, frankly, a small army of parent volunteers to pull it off. So this year it is Thursday, May 29. And please check your emails. In Tiger News, you will see how to sign up. It is a lot of fun, so grab a friend and sign up for an hour shift. And there's no special time or talent required, just your time. And the reason to do it really is because it's fun, and it also pays it forward so that next year when our kids are seniors, we're not the ones doing the work to put it on, because your kids aren't going to want to see you there. And this is your opportunity, if you haven't seen it already, to see what an amazing opportunity the kids have to be together safely after the prom. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you haven't done a tour celebration, it really is, they just turn the school into a totally different place. So please volunteer for that. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it to your house dean, Ms. Michelle Stous. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I'm super excited to talk with you tonight because I brought something to share with you. This is the mail you're going to get from this spring forward. And I have saved this specifically to show you that this is coming to you free of charge, NC no charge, and without your request or your child's request. If your child is college bound or you're aspiring or they are aspiring for them to go to college next year, this starts coming to you and it reminds you like full force pressure, college, college, college. So here's what I did. I took a smaller basket than this and I put it on a shelf. And every time something came in, I just put it in there and put it in there because my daughter, who's a senior, was not looking at any of it. And I even said to her one day, "You don't even look at this, what's going on?" And she goes, "I didn't ask them to send me all that." So at any rate, what I wanted to tell you is it hasn't even mattered. So I put it in a basket because you are the class of parents I feel the most true relatability to, because my own two kids sandwich your children. Like a little snug hug. So I'm going through the process right now. I just have these awesome school counselors in this school department that has years and years of experience to reassure my nerves, because even though I've worked in schools for 25 plus years or more, I feel pretty clueless and felt really anxious and nervous about the whole process. And I will tell you a couple tips from me, which were, I didn't expect my own nerves to get so engaged in the fall when I noticed my senior, whose name I won't mention because I can't talk about her until after she graduates, that her sense of time was different than mine. What she thought she could fit into an hour, or what she thought it took to write an essay, didn't really match the real time necessary. So those sorts of things really got in my craw, and I really was reminded of the fact that we parents have to self-regulate. There were times I was not self-regulated, and there was yelling in my house. So at any rate, I do know that Beth Swiderskis is going to find out who of you have gone through this before, and I really ask us all to be a support to one another. I have a close friend in Minneapolis who has gone through this with two of her children, and every time she and I talk, she says annoying things like, "What did she get on the SAT? What did she get on the ACT?" Because her daughter, her oldest, who goes to Tucson, got perfect scores. I don't want her asking me, it's none of her business. But also, I think of that kind of thing as, what's the purpose in asking? If you offer that, that's one thing, if you decide to share. But let's really be that support for each other, because some of you in this room have older students who are in Riley House or Beals House or Adams House. What's the other one? Berry House. And some of you are doing this for the first time like I am. And I will tell you, there comes a moment of wonderful respite. And it's a year from this week, the past weekend, okay? So a year from this past weekend, that regular application deadline is over, and there will be a wash of relief over you until all the answers come in later and you have to make a decision. But you're in very good hands. I've worked with this group of counselors, most of them, for, I think 18 years. And many of them have been here longer than me, and several of them have children of their own who've gone through this process. So you're in the right place, you're at the right school, you're in the right house, Riley House. Glad to see you and be with you together on this. Thank you.
Taking her laundry with her. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Beth Swiderskis, and I have the honor of being the Counseling Department Chair at Newton North High School. It's great to see you here in person, and also those who are at home, live streaming, or wherever you may be. Maybe not even at home, maybe in another pleasurable place. I'm trying to put this in here, sorry. All right, hold on. As I've been doing this for many years as well. What? I got it? Have it? Okay, thanks. So hi, can you believe it? Junior year. It goes by in such a flash, it's pretty amazing. And full disclosure, I am also a parent of a senior in another town, but it's all the same. It doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter in so many places, it's about what kind of processes that we go through. And so tonight, the counseling department is here to provide you with an informative evening about future planning. And I usually always ask, like at least a show of hands, how many people are going through this for the first time? Excellent. This is awesome, very exciting, okay? It is. And I know I can't see people from who are not here, but, which is fantastic. Now, some people may be going through this for the third time or fourth time. The thing is, or anywhere in between, it can be different every single time. So many times I talk to families like, oh, we went through this already, and then like, oh, it is a completely different type of process with this other child, right? That being said, the counseling department here at Newton North High School with teachers and administrators and our administrative staff and records office, we go through it every year. So feel really confident that we have the information, the resources, the support, and you're going to hear a lot about the types of support that we're going to provide all of you. And so, you know, even though things may change in the landscape and we keep up with trends, we got you. It's going to be great. It's going to be a wild ride, but it can be really interesting, and at times there'll be ups and downs, but it's okay. So as we embark on this, I'm going to talk about a couple of topics. I'm going to start some slides. Then we're going to go into the counselor presentation, and then we're going to end with our college admission panel, which we're really excited to have all in one evening for you tonight. Okay, so a lot of what we'll be talking about has to do with the college planning process. And we recognize that students have different paths that they're going to take, and we celebrate and support every single one. With the majority of things, and there's many times students are like, they think they're going to do something right as of today, and you never know what's going to happen by the time it's a year from today. And so we just want to make sure that things are being included in being inclusive, as well as knowing that there is going to be a focus that is mostly going to be about what types of things to expect when it comes to starting and launching the college planning process. But it could be 4-year school, 2-year school, the gap year, the work, employment, specialized programs, post-high school, military, career technical school, you name it. We really support and celebrate what every student wants to do on an individual basis. Where do we begin? A lot of this has to do with the fact of really doing some reflection. And from students themselves, they're getting to that point where they are gaining their maturity, their development, they're thinking about what type of student they are, they're thinking about what they may want out of life after high school, and somewhere, anywhere in between. So it's about being reflective and like, what are my goals? Like, what do I want to, what are the values am I starting to really hone in on when it comes to the things that I want as part of my life? You know, do I want to go to college? And if I do, what do I want to do when I get there? What kind of experiences do I want to have? And somebody, you know, a lot of people at this point, some students may be like, I don't even know. And this is where a lot of the research can start. What type of people in the learning environment? Like our students who have been here for 3 years, but we also have many students that transfer in, and you're used to this particular type of school with over 2,100 kids. You know, for example, that's the size of a small college. And so depending upon what that is going to launch them into, like what kind of environment they would want. What kind of balance, what kinds of things are they doing here in school are starting to cultivate even more once they get onto a college campus. And one of the last points is, how involved do I want my parents and guardians to be? And you'll hear a little bit more about that later on. And then we always kind of flip it to parents and guardians as well, and really having those reflective moments, and thinking about what are the hopes and dreams for your children, the kind of environment, how far, finances, and things like that. It's not too early to start thinking about these things, because what you don't want to do is have a really big surprise kind of conversation like a year from now. And what do you think your role may be in this process as well? Resources. We got a lot. So the thing is that we have them in both personal, human format, as well as digital. We're not as much hard copy so much anymore, we're saving some trees. But this is really about what you can expect to receive. This is just kind of even like the tip of the iceberg. So one of the things that we really like to advertise a bit, does anybody know that we have a high school planning college guide? Anybody know that? A couple. All right, you're gonna win a locker one of these days, okay? The college planning guide, I think, who's with me? Jen, until like 2014, did we start? I wanna say? Yeah. So this is, and I'm going to show you where to find it, all right? So if you go on our website, did you ever go on North's website? You should do it. You're going to do it more often. And then what's going to happen, you go to the counseling department, college and career center. You seeing that okay? Yes? And as you go down, college planning guide. And then you click on that, and it's over 100 pages. It was a labor of love, let me tell you. And it is a compendium of chapters of information that may be relevant at any given time to you and your families throughout this whole process. A bunch of people got together and felt, you know, everybody needs something to refer to. Not everybody does everything at the same time, nor should they. And it has chapters of where to begin, building your list, standardized testing. Look at these things. I mean, right at your fingertips. All right? Yes?
I'll just say that I now circulate this to people in my community, and it's now spins throughout the entire town, because people, they are not getting this kind of information at their high school. So it is truly a remarkable book that our counseling department puts together. So really, I never take their expertise, but it's really, any questions you have, it's in that book.
Thank you. Yep. We've had other districts reach out and we said, have at it. And so it has chapters about certain topics, and it just continues to go, a ton of appendices, worksheets, and so it's not meant to be read cover to cover necessarily. But if you look at each chapter, it's like, oh, I think I want to learn a little bit more about that right now. Click on it. Perfectly fine. All right? So we just want to make sure that you know about that is at the ready for you to have. The next big resource, you're going to hear a little bit more about this from our College and Career Center, but I'm going to show you. This is a Google Doc. These were also shared with you in email messages and starting in Parent Square from the Riley House office. So let's pay attention to those, what you're going to get, bookmark them, and make sure you have them. This is also an unbelievable resource by our college and career counselors who collect and post this information. Things that are in orange are the newest information, and you click on a particular chapter, it's bookmarked, boom, right into researching colleges. So it is there for the taking. At times, a lot of information, and we know, can be overwhelming, all right? When you get the weekend updates, when you get a lot of things, it's like, how do I manage all of this? Just take it step by step, and it's okay. You don't have to memorize anything, but know that it's there, and you can get a lot of your questions answered before you even have to ask them. All right. Then a lot of you have seen this junior planning timeline. Just gives certain dates of certain things that we think are going to be important as you plan what the second semester is going to be like. And then some of the things, I'll go into SCORE in a little bit as well. Junior seminars, our school counselors run junior seminars for our students. It's going to be in WIN blocks in February and in May, and they're going to get a ton of information about the whole process, everything from reviewing their progress to grad, looking at Aspen and making sure, when they're going to get their GPA. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that soon. We're going to get them on the Common App. We're going to have them look at the essay prompts. We're going to, you name it, we do all the stuff with them to make sure that they are left and going off in the summer with all the information that they need. Juniors can start to have individual meetings with the College Career Center. You're going to hear a little bit more about that later. You can also have individual meetings with their school counselors at any time to really start to individualize this process. We have college admission rep visits, and that's going to be more solidified a little bit more in the spring, that they come to Newton North because they love hearing and meeting with our students. College websites and Instagram pages, and as well as College Guidance Network roadmap. And that is something I'll go into a little bit more as well. And that is something that we partnered with from the DESE, and it gives students and parents and guardians an opportunity to really look at what are the types of things from a timeline perspective, what they should be thinking about doing. SCORE. Has anybody heard of SCORE right about now? Yes. I did look today, like 462 juniors are registered with SCORE, which is fantastic, but it is okay if they haven't done a ton with it yet, but that's all right. And what's going to happen is that when you log into SCORE, just going to do very quickly, I'm going to be a student. All right, here's my SCORE. All right, good evening, Betsy. It personalizes it right off the bat. And it says, you want to do a career assessment, you go to Principals U, some career assessments, not sure what you want to do, where your strengths and preferences are. It gives you all that information at the ready, which is awesome. And it has you take that little, when you strongly agree, I'm sensitive to others' emotions. Most counselors, I pretty much would say I strongly agree. Catch me on some another day. And it goes through a ton of information, and then what it's going to do is start to build the college list, discovering, searches, all the things that you're going to need in one-stop shopping, and that is our career and college management system. Personalized for each student. It goes to the colleges, you can follow them when you start to apply to them. There are surveys to do. So that is going to be the management piece. You're going to hear a lot more about that as the year progresses and into the senior year of fall. Okay? Fall of senior year. The other things, very quickly, the College Guidance Network, I'm going to show you what that is very quickly. What that is, and I also went as a parent, because if I went as me, you'll see a dashboard. All right. Again, this is a partnership. Can you do that? Doesn't like me right now. Let's try it again. Oh, it's thinking. I should have a joke, right? Oh, here we go. Family member dashboard. Again, this is a partnership. This is a free resource. Videos, timelines. You go in, you quickly set up an account, really simple, and it tells you, oh, this is what I should be doing about applying. This is how I think I'm going to pay for school, what I should do in the summer, exploring, a whole thing of videos. So there is, in this particular roadmap, College Guidance Network, like I said, videos of every topic you can imagine. And it's for your account at any time, and then that information is going to be sent out to everybody to make sure you know how to create an account, okay? Again, you're not expected to know, remember everything. You're all going to be getting this in plenty of time. The other thing, so that from a resource perspective, there's a ton of them, and you're going to hear about them more. All right, SCORE, covered that a bit. Juniors have their own accounts. They can invite their parents and guardians. And if they do, they invite you through SCORE. You get an email, and you also can share in all of the features and see what the account is for your children as well. All right, this is what you can expect when our juniors starting to then, after this first semester, and an academic profile. And this is really going to start creating their transcript, okay? So what's going to happen is all the classes that they have taken in 9th, 10th, and through halfway through 11th grade, it is the amount of credits earned for each course that they have taken. If the student has transferred in, like I said, many do, it's going to show the number of transfer credits from a previous school. It's going to show the levels next to each course, whether that's college prep, advanced college prep, accelerated honors, and AP. And then there's going to be a single cumulative GPA reported on the transcript, and information about our grading system and how we grade, as well as we've really done, I think, a wonderful job of promoting what students do beyond the classroom, beyond the transcript, and that's the seals of recognition. And I'm going to show you just a sample transcript. And can you see that okay? Is it somewhat like? Greg Brady, anybody get the reference? You'll get a laughter also, Greg Brady. And as you can see as a sample, the course is very nicely listed, final grades, the credits, and then GPA information right over there. And for example, seal by literacy, you get the seal right on the transcript. An example, we have our seals for theater, art, civic action, social justice, STEM seals. So these really help right there in admissions, or if they're applying for jobs and that transcript is being sent, look at the accomplishments that so many of our juniors and our seniors have accomplished, okay? So it's just an idea of a sample of what that transcript is going to look like. All right? You're hanging in there, okay? So, with all that being said, what we're going to do, I'm going to go back here and making sure that we have it all done. All right, so we're going to shift. So that was just logistical resources, all of that. Now we're going to pivot a bit into our council presentation on various topics. I can stay up here and be down and white, or if you would like to do the, just like that slide yourself, whatever you feel.
Hi, everybody. I don't really manipulate the slide, so it can just stay there.
Okay.
And you can
I'm
read
going to go.
at your leisure.
You go.
So good evening. My name is Matthew Ford, and I am one of the school counselors. I am enjoying my 23rd year working at Newton North, which I don't understand. I don't understand where they all went, but they're going. My chosen topic this evening is, it's less about the nuts and bolts, it's less about all the information that you're hearing, and it's a little bit more about sort of taking a pause and a deep breath. One of the things I just want to remind parents, but also students, but mostly parents because we've lived longer, is that you're entering into a period of transition. You know, in a word, this is the beginning of what is going to be a transition. And we all handle transitions differently. You know, for some families, there have been many transitions in different ways, shapes, and forms. For other, including your kids. And for other kids, this might be the biggest transition that they're facing. So, you know, in a way, we know that it's an important decision, we know it's an important transition, but sometimes if we look at it in the context of, well, when you call it a transition, I'm reminded I've been through those before, and I'm here to live, I've lived to tell the tale. Some of them might have been pleasant, some of them might not have been, but we've gotten through them. So it's not to minimize the importance, but it's just to put it in a context that feels manageable. And one of the transitions I love to bring up is that if you were fortunate enough to be involved with the birth and infancy of your kids, one of the first transitions is teething. That is sort of vicariously painful when you watch a child dealing with something you can't control and it hurts. But you know it has to happen. You know, we won't survive without that happening. Another transition that you might have been through is when your kids were learning how to walk. You know, they might have been squeezing the blood flow out of your fingers or stepping, you know, walking on your feet. But the goal in that transition is that you want your kids to literally develop the muscles to be able to do it independently. You know, to be there in case they fall on their padded bottoms. Hopefully it didn't hurt, hopefully they don't cry. But it's not life-threatening, and you know it's very necessary. Another transition that you may or may not have shared with your kids is the white knuckling experience while they are learning how to be drivers. You know, sitting in the passenger seat with that imaginary steering wheel, the brake that doesn't exist on your side of the car. However, the goal is that your kids need to learn the power of speed, velocity, the responsibility of having a license, because they need to be able to do it independently. So this is a transition where there are a lot of similarities. Kids always need their parents. You know, that need just evolves, it just changes. You know, thinking about these things that you've gone through in your lives, hopefully they put smiles on your faces, hopefully there's not trauma associated with them, and I don't say that jokingly, I mean that. I'm hoping that they are kind of warm, fond memories that might be translatable into this transition that you have not experienced yet. We are a team that is here to help you with the transition, and honestly, it's very easy for us to say this because we do have the practice of doing it every year, but truly, if it's done responsibly and mindfully, kids usually wind up in wonderful places where they really should be. And sometimes that's where you hope to be, and sometimes, surprisingly, it's not. But getting through this and seeing it clearly on the other side is a very different experience. And then lastly, one thing that I wanted to share is oftentimes parents will say, what's an appropriate level of involvement for me? Or what's my role in all of this? I might have done this, but it was a different era, certainly different or lack of technology, maybe a different country, maybe not have done this at all. And honestly, like, the role is co-pilot, you know, not unlike those other transitions. Certainly your sons and daughters have not been through this either. And at its core, this process is not that different from what it has always been. How it's executed is different now, but don't let the difference in technology and execution scare you. You know, again, we're used to it, we're here to explain it to you. And then, I promise this is my last point, one of the most valuable things you can do both for yourself and your kids is just to take some time to be mindful of, you know, what is my motivation for my child in this process? We all have hopes and fears for the people that we love. They always inform some of our decisions, some of our actions. Conflict is not inevitable. It's not surprising if it happens, but it's not inevitable. It doesn't happen in every household. But sometimes when it does, it's because those hopes and fears that are parental are sort of overshadowing what might be appropriate choices and decisions for the kids. It always comes from a place of love. It always comes from a place of hope or maybe fear. But just being mindful of, wait a minute, is this about my stuff? Or is it about what's good for them? My hope is that nothing that I've said sounds preachy, or that nothing that I've said sounds like we got it all down, we have all the answers, because everybody is different. But these are just collective observations through the years that seem to have helped parents and students through the years. So hopefully, as you hear even more detailed information, some of these fond, warm memories could help all the details sink in a little bit more pleasantly. So thank you for listening. And who am I introducing? I am introducing Brendan Emilio.
Hey everybody, Brendan Emilio, school counselor. I'm first going to speak about the role of the school counselor and the responsibilities throughout the process. So each student was assigned a school counselor when they started here in 9th grade or upon transfer. That school counselor stays with them for the 4 years, and we become a pretty important role in this transition process. So we start with individual appointments with our 11th grade students, and we really start to talk about the ideas of life after high school, whatever that may be, whether it is the college route, whether it is the route of military, a gap year program, a PG year, going off into the workforce. We like to assist with all of that and all of the different parameters that come with the different routes that the students may go. We'll assist students with the standardized testing process. So when it comes to colleges and universities, while many colleges and universities have remained test optional, there are still colleges and universities that require a standardized test. So we'll help figuring out what is the best test for that particular student based off of previous experiences with testing, as well as assisting with requesting accommodations, if applicable, for students on 504s or IEPs. We'll help, the term here is the counselor statement. And what the counselor statement is an introduction to the college universities, to the gap year programs, to the future employers of that individual, of that student. So we like to talk about the student's academic profile, as well as our own individual experiences with the student, as well as things that might have come up throughout the student's high school experience, whether it's the highs or the lows, to really capture that student's high school experience so that the people reading it really get a taste of what the student is, or who the student is. We'll go over timelines and deadlines. So when it comes to timelines, when we think about the spring right now, talking about college visits and tours and when to start going to the College and Career Center, which I'll talk about momentarily. We offer score support, so as both the college and career counselors and ourselves, as we use the system for post-high school planning management. Sometimes students have difficulty navigating the system, but we'll absolutely help with all the intricacies that come up with SCORE. We'll help students in the fall with the application review, and to complete the application. Many of us counselors will team up in the fall during our win blocks, and we'll offer Common App support, application support, essay reading, things like that. Of course, students can always use their teachers, their parents, their mentors for essay reading, but oftentimes having the feedback from a school counselor or college counselor can be a more unbiased point of view because we have an idea of what the admission staff especially are looking for when it comes to the college essay. One of my favorite things to do that I've done a number of times this year is mock interview support. So whether that's an interview for a college or university, or whether it's an interview for a job, kind of going through what it's like to be in a professional interview, answering questions, the professional attire. It's a really fun process. And then financial aid, the financial aid process and scholarship support. So scholarship and financial aid, money is a really important thing when we're talking about post-high school planning. And there's many different avenues that we can explore, and it can be a little overwhelming, but we do have resources as school counselors and the college and career counselors to help with that. I'm going to shift now into the college and career counseling office. So the college and career counselors are in room 110 on the first floor, right near the cafeteria. We have some wonderful college and career counselors who offer, I feel like, I feel like they're better than Google because of the wealth of knowledge that they have for colleges, universities, gap year programs, the military, anything. Anytime you have a question, Ms. Hall, Ms. Moeller likely has the answer for you. I'd say 99.99999% of the time they have that answer because they're that good. The College and Career Office provides a space for individual counseling, college counseling support, but as well as career support. So for the students who are sitting here right now, listening to me, watching this at home, as we go through the seminar process in a few weeks, and they're like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if college is the right choice for me. I don't know if I want to go into the military. The college and career counselors can help really dovetail with the school counselors and the student of what that pathway might look like. So really encouraging the independent, unique routes that everyone goes through throughout this process. We will provide additional resources, so going through SCORE, but also, as Ms. Strauss showed in her laundry basket, some of those resources, we have those here as well, but some of them can be more poignant to the specific college or university that a student might be thinking about, or a certain program that a student might be thinking about. So we have those resources. And then in the spring, we will start having more college and university reps coming to visit North in the College and Career Counseling Office, and students can sign up for that, for those appointments. It's a really great opportunity for students to connect with a large majority of the time the individual who might be reading an application. They might be reading that essay. So while many college and universities do track something called demonstrated interest, so the amount of times you devote, you go to a college, you go to a meeting in the College and Career Center when they're visiting Newton North, you go to the visit when they're at a hotel in Boston. Sometimes schools track that, so it's a good opportunity for students to meet the admission rep or meet someone who's representing the school, and it's a great opportunity for them to put a face to the name that will soon, or potentially could soon be across their desk. The college and career counselors will also help with resume building, resume kind of workshops, and provide job, internship, volunteer, and scholarship listings. So a huge array of information. The college and career counselors have worked on a document, it's called the Information for the Class of 2026, and I believe, Ms. Swerdowska showed that a little while ago, and it's been in the communication that has come out through the Riley House. It'll come out with the recording of this evening, but using that document, using the college planning guide, all those resources in tandem with the school counselor and the college and career counselor, I believe is going to make this the most seamless, least stressful process as possible. So I believe that's it for me. And one last thing, to schedule an appointment with the college and career counselors. That's all through Google Calendar. So students can make appointments when they have a free block, when they have a lunch block, but they're not allowed to miss class to meet with a college counselor. If there's a really tight schedule, checking in with Ms. Hall and Ms. Moeller and seeing if there's some things that they can work out to get into the calendar without missing a class is something that we always try to make happen. But that can all be done electronically, and the signups for that are both through SCORE as well as through the 2026 information doc that I just mentioned. Now that is it, and we're hearing from Mr. Manning.
Should have carried him downstairs. Richard Gere carrying him out of the factory. Sort of gentleman, play the music in the background. All right, exciting stuff now, following that up. College admissions application options. So, there's a lot of different ways you can go about your college application process. And we're going to go through them real quick so you have an understanding, become very familiar with these as we get into it. I'm actually going to start in the middle with open admissions. So the reason we start with open admissions is if you all continue on the trajectory you are on and you graduate from high school, you are able to go to college. Congratulations. Good for you. So, open admissions, things like Mass Bay Community College. You are allowed to enroll at Mass Bay Community College, as an example, if you have a high school diploma or have passed the high step. So that's what open admissions means. There's usually not a deadline associated with it, and you just go and attend the school, you start taking classes. Different programs may have deadlines, but every student who completes their high school education can go to community college in their college career. So that one is just, you know you have an option. There you go. All right, regular decision. This may be something that if you applied, 20 years ago, you might be more familiar with. This is sort of the standard January 1st deadline. A lot of applications are due around then. And there's no limits to this. You can apply to as many regular decision schools as you want. We would not recommend that you apply to that many, but we can kind of find a comfortable number for you. Typically, what will happen is you'll receive your admissions decision sometimes between like March and April around there. It will all be sent out at a set time. Everyone's released at once. So, for example, MIT releases all their decisions on March 14th because they're into math and it's pi. Clever people. And usually what ends up is you have to declare by May 1st. So the college where you will attend, the declaration day is May 1st. So you'll find out what time to make that time. Rolling admission. So there are some similarities. It probably has a similar deadline. But what happens with rolling admission, instead of releasing all of the decisions at once, they will review applications as they come in. And then at that point, they will send them out. So they won't make you wait and send all of them at one time. They'll send them, say 3 to 4 weeks after they've reviewed your application, received your application, they'll send that out for you. So early action and early decision, these are, the dates are moving back more and more every day. So every year, there's more and more schools that are looking at October as early decision deadlines, early action deadlines. So what is the difference? For both of them, you're sending in your transcript in your application process usually around November 1st. So what that means is that what you have in your application package at that point is what you are applying for. So if you're someone who is maybe looking at, I want to get my first semester grade so I can show, I did really well in this class that I took that I've never taken before, then you may want to wait until you get those January 1st application deadlines so you can get your first term grades and show them that you've done well. That's one of the biggest things you want to think about when you look at applying early versus applying late. The difference between action and decision is that decision is a binding application. So if you apply early decision, you are saying to that school, if I get in, I will attend you. Which can be great, because you could find out by the time you leave for December break where you're going to school and you could be completely done. The downside of that is you don't get to compare things like financial aid offers. So you can't, say, okay, this school offered me this school offered me this, which one makes the most sense for me. You are going to that school because if you are accepted, you are expected to withdraw all of your other applications. And, if the financials doesn't work out or you change your mind, you're kind of out of options. That's the school you're going to. So I do think sometimes people get this thought that, like, it has to be early. I have to apply somewhere early. I have to apply somewhere early. We hear that from kids. They come and say to us, if I don't apply early, I'm not going to get in. That's not true. We talked a little bit about demonstrated interest earlier, and early decision does show demonstrated interest. So it can give you an advantage, but the truth is it's not as crazy as people think it is. So if it's a school that is in your wheelhouse, it might help. If it is a school that is a really high reach, early decision is not going to clear what happened in that English class sophomore year. So that's kind of what you got to remember when you're thinking about that, is don't get caught up in like, this is going to fix that. There is something called early action restrictive. And what this really comes down to is some of the bigger schools kind of swinging their weight around and saying, like, yeah, we'll do this. What it means is you can only apply to one school. So the only school you can apply to is that one school, and they often will let you apply to a state school. You're not bound to attend there. You can apply to other schools in January, but that's the one school you're allowed to apply to from November 1st deadline. One thing to think about if you are considering applying early is to check in with us early as well. Like I
said, the deadlines have moved further and further up, and so we want you to kind of make sure that we've had that conversation and you kind of know what your plans are. The other thing I would say is you don't have to apply early. There is sometimes a little bit of almost obsession. It's like everyone's applying early, and that's not the case. You need to make the application that's right for you. And so if you're someone who needs that extra quarter of grades that you want to show your improvement, then slow down and use that time. Take advantage of it. But if you're someone who's got everything done and you can do it, then great. Take advantage of the opportunity. But make sure it's the right decision for you. You're going to hear that a lot. There's what you think is the right decision and what's the right decision for you. You want to make sure you're focusing on that as much as possible. Yeah, that's it. All right. Mr. Rivera.
Good evening. I'm Brian Rivera, school counselor. This is my second year here at Newton North. For those of you guys who haven't met me yet. So I'm here to talk about standardized testing real quick. Standardized tests, as you can see, there's many different options for different tests that students will take to gain college admission or other goals that they're pursuing. Two of the most popular or the more common tests that students will take are the SATs and the ACTs. And they're similar in content, but schools will generally take either or for admission and also awarding merit-based scholarships. Students are responsible for signing up for those exams through the websites that are listed above. So for the SATs, it's collegeboard.org, and for the ACTs, it's ACT.org. And I think the more recent exam that's coming up for students to sign up for is the ACTs, and that's coming up in February. So generally, you want to register about 2 weeks before the exam starts. So in January is a good time to sign up for the ACTs. And for the SATs, it'll be in March. So I think the next one coming up. And they're ongoing, so if you missed this one, there's more testing dates that you guys can find online. For other students that speak English as a second language, they can sign up for the TOEFL exam. But there's also Duolingo that's kind of becoming more popular as well. That's not listed up there. And it's cheaper and a quicker exam to take. There's also, and if students need accommodations for any of these exams, they can speak to their counselor. Generally for students that have a floor plan or an IEP, that's generally something that we can accommodate if needed. And also for test optional schools, you can find that out through fairtest.org, because not all exams are required for college admissions. And yeah, that's something that you guys can also look into and also speak about with your college counselor. And yeah, so that'll be it for the exams. Up next is Mr. Cotto. With course registration process.
Short, I gotta tilt the microphone. Hi everyone, Mr. Cotto. Been here, I think 10 years, a long time. So I'm going to talk about the course registration process. Just so you know, the opportunity booklet, which is our course catalog, will be released via the website during February break. During this time, it's important for your child to kind of go through it. I always tell kids, like senior year is like a choose your own adventure year. There's so many English classes to take. It's not just like the AP English or English 12. Like, there's so many fun like history, social science classes to take, regular science classes to take. So definitely like go through it, have some fun with it. Talk to their teachers, come talk to us about it, just to make sure that, you know, they're really reviewing everything. And if there's any new classes that come up, like the counselors will know of any new classes that are going to be coming up for next year. As of right now, we have no information, just so you know. The biggest thing is that when kids are selecting classes, we want them to be thoughtful about their classes. You've heard balance before, you're going to hear it again. We want them to have a good balance of classes. We want kids to be challenged. We also want them, at the end of the day, to be able to do things they enjoy, their sports, theater, hanging out with friends. just having some downtime on the weekend and vacation, that's very important. You don't want kids burnt out by like November 1st. Also, keep in mind what looks like a challenging course load for your child or for the students, like what, in the room, like what may look like a challenging course load for you is going to look different for your friends, for your neighbors, for your cousin that went here. So always keep that in mind and try not to compare yourself to others because you don't want to take on too much. Senior year is going to be a rough year when it comes to like classes, or I say challenging. And then, for those of you who think you want to go to college, the whole college application process is like taking an additional class during the fall semester. And if you're not sure about college, just thinking about it and being in the building, that's a lot to take in, just being in the building. So you just want to be kind to yourself, so be really thoughtful when you're picking your courses during this time. Also, I'm actually going to go to the next slide. So there's like 5 steps to this process. We're not in here right now, just so you know. Step 1 is your students' teachers, they're going to talk to each and every one of them about what class they think they should take next year. For some students, if let's say it's science and that's not their jam, they may say, you know what, I'm great with bio. I don't think I'm going to take a science class next year. I already got my science requirements out of the way. That's fine. They're not going to be offended by that. Other students may say, I really want to take this class. It's important to have those honest conversations with teachers, especially if you think you want to change level. Teachers need to know that. It's good for teachers to know what level classes you're thinking, because teachers don't know what other teachers are recommending you for. So it's good to have those honest conversations with them. When they're doing that, they're going to have those conversations starting around February break to the beginning of March. Teachers will put in all the core academic course requirements that they've talked to you about. And then starting the next step is students. You get to go in, you can see what the teachers have put in. You can't change it. You're like, I'm not going to take math next year anymore. I don't want to take it. You can't delete it, but you can see what your teachers put in. Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe you changed your mind. That's all okay. And you can put in any other additional classes you want. I can't stress enough the importance of putting in alternative options. Not every class is offered every block of every day, and not every student that requests a course is not going to fit in their schedule. So it puts you in a better spot for next year if you're picking an alternative option, because if you don't get the class, you don't rearrange the schedule to get the class that fit that you originally wanted, you're at the mercy of what will fit in that block at that time. And that's not till the summer or over the summer. So definitely put in alternative options. And then what we do as counselors, we'll meet with each of our kids, we go through the courses, we strongly recommend no more than 3 honors or AP classes. We know that looks different for every student. Some students can handle more, and some students just going up a level of one class is challenge enough. But we have those honest conversations with them. We'll walk through them with that. We're going to double check that they're enough. Getting the 72 credit mark, unless you have an approved exception for a little less than that. 72 is like the benchmark you're looking for credit-wise. And we're going to make sure you have alternative courses for all your electives and your core subjects. Because there are so many options for, let's say, English and history and science. There's not as many sections that run. So you want to make sure you have backups for those too. And then the biggest date to remember is April 7th. That's verification day. That is the last day students can go in and make changes. And just say, I don't feel like taking this class, I want to take that. Fine, you can change it. That's not a big deal. I want to switch up my electives. Great. Once April 7th is over and verification day is done, and you've said, these are my classes I want, like the science still delivered, that's what you get. You can't make changes on April 8th. You can't make changes in the fall. So please be mindful when making course selection. I always encourage my kids, and I know all the other counselors do, do your homework. Go talk to teachers who teach classes. Go talk to your friends that have taken a class or an elective that you're thinking about. Know that that's their own experience, but you're going to gather some really nice information about the class and be like, oh, I thought I really liked this class, and now after hearing about the syllabus from the teacher, talking to my friend, like, maybe this really isn't the class for me. It sounds great, but just not great for me. Great, because if you're in it, you may not be able to get you out. So do your homework, come talk to us, see us often, talk to teachers. We can tell you who's teaching classes. If you want to go reach out to a teacher, so I can tell you 10 times out of 10, a teacher wants a kid that's done their research and like, oh, I really want to be in their class. Because they really want those students that are excited to be in their classes. So the biggest thing is, when all is said and done, a key part of selecting a course for your child is their social, emotional, physical needs to be intact. So it's best to be challenged, but definitely not overwhelmed. So please reach out to us, families, students, with any questions during this whole process as much as you can. And now I get the pleasure of introducing Ms. Potter.
Okay, hi, I'm Christine Potter. So I'm going to talk a bit about the teacher letter recommendation process. So we have a 2-week window of time for students to ask teachers to write letters of recommendation for them. And that time frame is March 31st until April 17th. And we give the students a heads up to, it's coming up. And actually, when we have seminars at the end of this month, we let them know, like, this is something that's coming up, and they can start thinking about who they might want to ask. It's only 2 letters of recommendation that they are asking for, and very specifically, they need to ask junior year teachers. And we counselors are here and available to help them decide who they're going to ask, kind of figure that piece out a little bit before. I always think, like, it's best to think about this before the window starts so that you know who, it's not a mad rush or anything like that, but that you aren't trying to figure it out during that window of time. In a recommendation, a teacher writes about students as they know them in class, but they also include like a broader picture. So they might talk about their hobbies, kind of their character and personality in class, and what they know of them outside of class. So I think it's important for students to pick teachers who hopefully, they feel they're doing well in the class, or maybe they've even had some bumps in the road in the class, but they've worked hard to, pull up their grade, and that really gives teachers something to write about, like a nice story to tell about, working hard and fulfilling, what their goal is. Students should also consider asking teachers, not just academic teachers, but they also might want to ask teachers, like any major teacher, CTE teachers, depending on what their goals are for life after high school. Teacher recommendations for college are confidential, so we send them electronically through SCORE, or in some cases, sometimes we have to snail mail them, so it just depends on the college, but for the most part, it's all through SCORE. And it is really ultimately the student's responsibility to see how many letters of recommendation a college wants. It's usually 1 to 2. So that's why we encourage at least ask for 2 junior year. The other piece is that if there's any chance that a student might be applying early decision or early action with obviously an earlier deadline, it's really imperative that they secure 2 junior year teachers to write those letters. Sometimes if a student decides they might, or like they know for sure they want to apply regular decision, which is a more middle of the school year deadline timeline, then if they want to ask 1 junior year teacher and then ask a senior year teacher in the beginning of the year to agree to write that. But it doesn't make any sense if you're applying early to ask senior year teachers, because with a November 1st deadline or something around there, the teacher just doesn't have enough time to get to know the student, and that shows in the letter. That is all I have. And next is Ms. Lasker.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Kira Slosky. Great to see you all. In the essence of time and respecting your time, I'm going to try to keep my presentation as short as possible. I think one message that I will reiterate, hopefully you've heard this loud and clear, any questions you have, your school counselor really is your go-to person. So please reach out. I speak on behalf of my department. We field questions all the time. As Ms. Stow said, some of you are doing this for the first time, some of you are doing the 4th time, and it can be changing, and there's always anxiety. It's inherently an anxiety-producing process. So please reach out to your school counselor. Speaking of which, We have the privilege of writing counselor statements on behalf of all of our students. And so we will be talking about those during our junior seminars that are coming up. It's an opportunity for the counselor to speak to, certainly kind of in a nutshell, what our students have done academically and extracurricularly. And it's an opportunity for us to talk about something that perhaps impacted your child during their time at Newton North. So perhaps there was an illness, whether it be your child or you. Perhaps they wanted a course that because of scheduling conflicts they couldn't get. Perhaps they took a semester and went somewhere else. There are a whole host of different things that as counselors over the years we've addressed during our counselor statements. We will be working closely with our students to talk about what they want us to convey to the admissions office. They're confidential and they are not meant in an evaluative way. It's meant more to communicate important information. One of the things that's key for all of our juniors, and certainly into your senior year, their senior year to complete, is something called a future planning survey. So we're going to be saying this many, many times. It is in SCORE, and we are going to give students, we're going to politely ask them to make it a priority. Certainly if students can work on it going into their summer between their junior and senior year, it really, to the extent that there are things you can control and you can't, you can control getting that junior future planning survey done. And then we will help them revisit it in the senior year to add anything that perhaps they've done over the course of the summer. It is, again, it is something that we spent a decent amount of time putting thought and effort into. We really find that as a kind of like a parting gift to your to our seniors, and it's something that is, you may be, when you're working with your juniors, it might be something that is listed for many colleges or what have you as college counselor recommendations. We call them counselor statements. Again, we are going to be doing those for all of our students. One thing that I will say is also helpful, sometimes the parents are like, what can I do to help with the process? Or parents or caregivers, excuse me. If you feel like there's information that your child isn't going to either convey and or you feel like you have information that you think would be beneficial for the counselor to know about, I would certainly encourage you to reach out to your child's school counselor and just say, hey, I'm not sure if this should go in the statement or not, but I think it would be helpful for you to know. We're never going to put information in there that will catch a student off guard or by surprise. Our goal is really to help support the application, and we consider this a really great opportunity for us to be able to capture things that might not fit into a supplement or any other place within the application. So as with everything, if you have any questions, because I know I'm rushing through that, again, in the essence of time, there's so much good information coming your way, please reach out to your school counselor, to your child's school counselor, and also please know that we are going to be covering this in a lot of depth when we do our junior seminars coming up. All right? You're all going to be okay, and so are your children. Thank you.
Okay, hi again. Okay, so as we wrap up this section of the evening, we're going to pivot. So you're going to see some people moving around here. We're going to transition into our college admission rep panel, which is fantastic. And you will then be, there'll be introductions that are made. Our college and career counselors is Jillian Hall. Hey, Jen, say hi. And Jen Bowler. And they will do the introductions and the moderating. Oh, you're on. Do you have a second? Okay. Last but not least, important things to consider as we wrap up this evening, these slides will be available. So you are going to get a whole copy of these slides with a lot of other information, about a week or so after this event as we get all the information there for you. Okay, are we ready to roll? We are ready to roll. All right. So, you need this. Okay? Okay. Do you need this?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jillian Hall, and I'm one of the college and career counselors here at North. My colleague Jen Moeller and I, another one of the college and career counselors, are excited to be in charge of concluding the event tonight with the college admissions panel. Over the next 30 minutes or so, you're going to hear from some experts. We're thrilled to welcome Kenny Sawada from Syracuse University, Tori Neeson from Colby College, and Scarlett Bittner from UMass Amherst. We have a handful of questions prepared that we'll ask about the college admissions process, and then we'll spend the last 10 minutes or so opening up the floor to Q&A from you all. We hope that hearing directly from the folks on the college side will give you some helpful information, guidance, and peace of mind. It feels important to pull back the curtain on the college admissions process and see that the college folks are not scary. While they may be the ones who initially read your admissions applications, they're eager, excited, and willing to help students and families figure out if their college is the right fit for you. So I'd like to start by asking each of you to introduce yourself and give a 1-minute overview of your school.
Thanks, Jillian. I'm Kenny from Syracuse, which is in upstate New York. And Syracuse is known for our beautiful campus, rigorous academics, and school spirit. Some alumni include Catherine Switzer, the first female to run the Boston Marathon, and Drew Carter, who works for the Celtics, does play-by-play. And our school color is orange, so it won't be too much of a stretch if you consider us.
Hi everyone, my name is Scarlett Bittner. I'm Assistant Director of Admissions at UMass Amherst. We are the big public 4-year state flagship school. We're located in Amherst, Massachusetts, so about an hour and a half, 2 hours west of here, depending on the traffic. We are a fairly large school, about 23,000 undergraduate students, about 100 different majors, 60 different minors, 350 different clubs and organizations. We're also a really large research university. And of course, our biggest fun fact is we've been ranked #1 dining in the country for 8 years in a row now. So you'll actually have food when you come to college.
Hi everyone, my name is Tori. I work at Colby College, which is the liberal arts college in Waterville, Maine, about 3 hours north of here. We've got about 2,300 students studying 45 different majors, plus a whole host of minors and concentrations and all of that good stuff. Some of the distinctive things about Colby include our academic calendar. Our students are actually already back in school, unlike most colleges, for our JAN plan, which is kind of an exploratory, intensive 1-month period of time. We've got students on campus learning how to fly planes and studying graphic design and languages. We have students abroad in Spain and Bermuda and in Africa studying wildlife conservation, so it's a really exciting time. And that spirit of kind of taking your learning beyond our campus is visible also in our labs, institutes, and partnerships that provide research opportunities for our students. So though we're a liberal arts college, the research function is really robust at Colby for our undergraduate students. And then of course our location in the beautiful state of Maine. We're an hour from the coast, an hour from the largest city in the state, and an hour from the mountains. So especially this time of year, you have access to a lot of different outdoor activities while you're at Colby.
Thank you very much. So could we start by one of you telling the audience, what are all the parts of a completed application for a college app?
I can start for that. So there are, generally speaking, going to be 5 key components to the application. The first is, and I would say the most important, is your high school transcript. So the classes you've been taking, how you've been doing in those classes. Next are standardized test scores if they're required by the institution. Colby is test optional, which means you don't have to submit standardized test scores. But if you do choose to submit them, that's kind of the second piece of your application, it's SAT or ACT scores. Third are letters of recommendation. At Colby, we require 3, 2 from teachers, 1 from your school counselor. Fourth are your activities. So everything that you're doing outside of being in class in this building. So sports teams, theater, part-time jobs, family responsibilities, volunteering, teaching yourself Japanese from YouTube videos, whatever it is that you're up to outside of school, we want to know about it. And then the last piece is the personal statement. So when you submit the Common or Coalition application, there's a personal statement right in there, and that's your chance as a student to speak directly to us in the admissions office as opposed to your grades or your teachers or your test scores speaking for you. At Colby, we don't have any supplemental writing as part of our application, but there are some schools that will require additional essays or short answer questions or things like that as part of your application.
Thank you. What roles do the GPA and transcript play during an application review? Is one more important than the other? And do you recalculate the GPA?
I'll start, yeah. And so, obviously we are a university. Grades are important. We do read your application holistically, which means we're going to take everything into account. We're not just going to look at grades and say yes or no, but they are a really large component of your application. At UMass Amherst, we do recalculate your GPA per Massachusetts Board of Higher Education standards. So what that means is we are going to take each of your core academic classes each year and then one elective each year. We don't include things like health or physical education in your overall GPA. We also weight your GPA. So if you took any advanced courses, any honors, AP, dual enrollment courses, you'll get some extra points added on for that. So that is something that we do consider, especially for our more competitive majors. But like I said, GPA is not the end-all, be-all of the college application process.
And then sort of related, as a follow-up, Newton North only calculates an unweighted GPA. Does this have any impact, and could you talk about this?
It doesn't impact UMass at all because we recalculate it. We don't look at whatever any school sends because every school has does something completely different. I don't know.
If somebody else wants to touch on that too, that would be helpful.
Sure, and I'll just add, so Scarlett mentioned we consider applications holistically, and part of that is considering your application and the information in your application within the context of your specific high school. So you're never going to be penalized for not having a weighted GPA if your school doesn't create a weighted GPA. You're never, in the same way that you wouldn't be penalized for not taking an AP class that North doesn't offer. So we're looking at the information that your school provides. So alongside each student's transcript, your school counselor is going to submit something called the secondary school report. It comes right there with their recommendation. It gives us all of the helpful information about your school. Like, we don't calculate a weighted GPA. Here's how many AP classes we offer. There are restrictions on APs or when you can take honors or anything like that. All of that's included, so we have that information as we evaluate the student's application.
Thank you. So just to reiterate, the unweighted GPA does not have a negative impact on the admissions process. Thank you. Could you please let us know what your current testing policy is in regards to the SAT or ACT, and if you're test optional, how does the admissions office evaluate students who choose not to submit scores?
For us at Syracuse, we're currently test optional. We're not sure what we're going to do for the upcoming year, but we'll be deciding that within the next couple of months. Students are not penalized for not submitting their test scores, so that's one thing I want to emphasize for our institution. So if a student, we have an application from a student who doesn't submit, we're just reviewing every other part of the application and making the decision from there. Our stats from last year, the majority of our students did not submit their test scores. So again, I just want to reiterate that many schools who have this policy are not going to penalize you for not submitting.
We are also test optional. We have no plans to change that at all moving forward. Like I said, if you submit them, great, we'll take a look at them. We'll include them as a part of your application. If you don't, we'll look at everything else and use what we have.
Well, just said, Colby is test optional. We've been test optional since 2017, I believe. So that's not changing anytime soon.
Thank you. Next, shifting to the college essay. What do you look for? A college essay or personal statement is synonymous with that as well. Do you have any examples of strong essay topics or topics you'd recommend staying away from?
I can talk about this. We are all currently in the middle of our reading season, reading applications. The biggest thing that we are looking for in your personal statement, in your essay, is we want to get to know who you are. That is you as a student's main platform to get to showcase your personality, your point of view, your sense of humor, talk about your life, your experiences, what you're passionate about. So my biggest advice with the essay is, one, don't make it this big, weighty thing that ruins your whole junior, spring, summer, and beginning of senior year. It's okay. All we want to know is who you are, what you're passionate about. So talk about yourself. If you're talking about someone who is an inspiration to you, make sure you tie it back into yourself, how you've grown from that, what you've learned, how they have shaped you. If you spend your whole essay talking about how great your grandma is, like, yeah, she sounds fabulous, but I don't know anything about you now. The other thing I want to say too is there is no such thing as a bad essay topic. I was reading engineering files today, so I read about 60 different applications all about Legos. And those were written by 60 different students, and they all had a unique point of view, and they all had something new to bring to that essay that was all about the same topic. So it does not matter what your essay topic is, as long as you're talking from your heart, from your lived experiences, and we get to kind of see that window into you. That's what we're looking for.
Great. What role do extracurricular activities play in the admissions review?
I'll start because I have it. We want to know how you're spending your time outside of your high school classroom. Like Tori was saying earlier, extracurricular activities are not just things that you are doing that are associated with school. So school clubs, sports, things like that. If you have family responsibilities, if you work, all of those things can be considered extracurriculars. We want to know how you might spend your time if you come to our campus.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Moeller. I'm taking it back after the questions here. Next, what is the common application, and when do you recommend students begin working on it?
Common application is an opportunity that I did not have when I applied to colleges, is that you can apply to multiple schools at once using this one application. The Common App will open August 1st for those of you who are going to be seniors, so this summer. Wow. And you can log on now and create an account. So I would encourage you to consider doing that just to get the feel of the Common App, so that once August 1st rolls around, you can jump into it from there.
Thank you. What is demonstrated interest, and how would you recommend students show demonstrated interest? So, do you show demonstrated interest?
We do not directly.
All right, so not every school across the country utilizes demonstrated interest in the process. I think the percentage is like 50% of colleges utilize it in some capacity, whereas the other 50% don't. You likely will show demonstrated interest if you truly are interested in a school. It should automatically and naturally happen. We track it as if things that you think of, like physically going to the campus for a campus tour, and signing up for that, or an open house. But there are things you can do from the comfort of your own area too that can count for demonstrated interest. Like when I was at the college fair in your gym in October and you stopped by my table, that will count towards demonstrated interest if you filled out the card. We also offer interviews virtually, so if students want to do that, they can show interest in that way as well. So just know that there's different ways that you can show it, and you don't have to necessarily go to campus, because we know that with your time and with money, you're not able to visit every possible school that may be on your list.
Thank you. Could you each talk about the early application options at your college?
Yeah, we have early action, which is non-binding. So that really just means that you apply with that early November deadline, you get your answer back mid-January, as opposed to regular decision where the application deadline is usually mid-January, you get an answer back beginning of March. That's really the biggest difference between our two application timelines. Something else to consider with early action applications at UMass Amherst is we may not see your senior year progress report, your first quarter grades, if you apply early action. So if you're someone who really wants to make sure that those senior year grades are a part of your profile, waiting till regular decision might be a better fit. That's really the main difference. Since we're non-binding, you can apply to us and as many other schools as you would like. There is no commitment to come if you're accepted.
So at Colby, we have 2 rounds of early decision, which is the binding early option. So you can apply to one school during early decision 1. Our deadline is in mid-November. If you're admitted, you agree that you are coming to Colby, as you would at any school that you apply to, through an early decision round. We also have a second round of early decision for students who perhaps aren't ready to make that sort of commitment to a school in November. Maybe Colby comes on your radar later in the day, maybe you haven't had the chance to visit until over winter break or any of those other things. And our early decision 2 deadline is in early January. It's the same as our regular decision deadline, so kind of moving on that same timeline. But you have an expedited kind of answer back from us. For ED1, you'll hear back from us in mid-December, and for ED2, it's in mid-February.
and we're the same as Colby.
Thank you. Do you have any advice about financial aid that families can start thinking about at this point of the process?
So every single college or university in the country has a net price calculator on their website. It's federally mandated that we offer it. It's kind of a quick cost estimator. So you go in and you spend 15 to 20 minutes putting in some information about your family's financial situation, and it'll spit out kind of an estimate of what your financial aid package might look like at that school. That's a really great way to get a sense of what the net cost is actually going to be for you. The sticker price of a lot of schools, Colby included, can be really shocking. Many students, most of our students, are not paying that full sticker price. And so it's important to kind of get a sense of what it might look like for your family. It's also worth noting that these net price calculators, so they may look the same on the front end, are not the same. Every school uses a different formula, so you should do one for every single school that your student is considering to get a sense of whether or not it might be affordable for your family.
Thank you. And one last question for our panelists. Our audience tonight is primarily second semester juniors. What advice do you have for them at this stage of their process?
Talk to your school counselor. You all have, I'm serious, you all have phenomenal resources here, and your school counselors and the college and career counselors. Talk to them, use your resources, have conversations with them about what you're looking for, take their suggestions and advice seriously. They're seasoned pros, they know what they're talking about. And while you're talking to them, don't be afraid to talk to us either. I love doing events like this because it shows that we're like normal people. We're regular people. We want to talk to you. It's our job to talk to you. So reach out if you have questions, if there's anything that we can do to help, or kind of point you in the direction of something that's going to be of interest to you on our campuses. Don't be shy.
Yeah, I just want to kind of reiterate, reach out, whether that is to us, whether that is to a school's financial aid office to talk about different options. If you have never seen the financial aid forms before in your life that you have to fill out, a lot of schools, their financial aid teams are able to kind of help guide you through those processes. Even if you're not planning on applying to UMass Amherst, our financial aid team is happy to do a Zoom meeting with you to help you fill out the FAFSA. I can't say it, but the free application for federal student aid that is used by a lot of colleges. They will help you fill out that form if you are lost, confused, overwhelmed. So reach out to schools that you're interested in, ask questions, get out there to visit if you can. If you cannot make a trip somewhere that is further away or more expensive to get to, see if they offer virtual tours, see if they offer virtual information sessions, see if they have little virtual meetings with current students or with faculty. Put in the time to do the research to find a place that makes the most sense for you and is going to fit you the best. But by that same token, don't let this consume your entire life. Still work hard in your classes. Those are your jobs right now, right? And take time for yourself. You're going to have a really busy next year and a half, regardless of what your future plans look like. And so make sure you take time for yourself and don't let this consume every waking moment of your life. Enjoy your senior year and the end of junior year.
I have a cat named Caddy, and I'm not joking. She pooped on my chair this morning. I got up, I was reading applications, and I got up, and then she left a present. And I was like, are you serious? Like, this has never happened in the year that I had her. Stuff is gonna happen throughout the course of the college search process. Like, you're gonna be like, why am I filling out a 7 supplemental essay? You'd be like, you're on a Zoom call, an interview with a staffer, and the Zoom's gonna shut down. You're like, why did that happen? You're like, why didn't I get merit to that? Stuff is, you've gotta just roll with it. You just gotta clean up any messes, and then just roll with it, because there's gonna be ups and downs, and just know that you're gonna be okay at the end of it.
That might be the best piece of advice I've heard. I know we're running up against time, but I think that we have time for 1 or 2 questions for our panelists, if anyone has one.
Hi there, thanks for being here tonight, it's really been helpful. So some people say take the ACT, some people say take the SAT, some people say take both. What to do?
For us, there's no preference, but you may find that your student may be attracted to one test over the other based on their different qualities and how they assess.
Yeah, sort of similarly, if you are someone who knows you want to take standardized tests and you want to try out both and see what you do better on, and you decide to send in those test scores, we will, like with SAT, with ACT, if you take it more than once, we super score it, so we take your best section from each test. I know for me personally, way back when I was in high school, I took the SAT because ACT has a science portion and I couldn't do science. So take that kind of thing into consideration as well. Also take into account when the tests are being offered. If you have a massive sports game during the SAT weekend, maybe try the ACT first. But also research which schools you might be interested in applying to and whether or not they require those test scores, because if you're applying to all schools that end up being test optional and you don't want to take the time and the money to take those standardized tests, none of those schools will hold it against you.
Thanks in advance. If any advice for kids who are probably taking gap years, I know two of my kids took gap years and their personal essay would be very different than what they wrote while they were in high school, but I know you kind of got to apply, or I assume you have to apply during high school, so any advice I'd appreciate.
So every school is going to be different with taking gap years. UMass Amherst doesn't really allow deferrals for the most part, which means you can either apply your senior year, so you kind of have all of your things in place, and then you would have to reapply the year that you'd actually want to come. Or you can just kind of hold off and wait for later. Most schools, for schools that use the common application, there is a section, if you took a gap year, you have to write an additional statement about what you did on your gap year, how you spent your time, those kinds of things.
So at Colby, a number of our students take gap years every year. And so just to clarify, a gap year is when a student applies to college during their senior year and then elects to defer their enrollment for a year, so they have a year to spend how they will. Maybe they travel, maybe they volunteer somewhere, maybe they work for a year. It's kind of up to the student to determine how they're going to spend that year. I usually recommend that the student apply as a senior. It's when everything is freshest. You have the support of your school counselor as you go through the process. A number of schools, especially schools similar to Colby, so private liberal arts colleges and other similar private schools, are very open to one-year deferrals for students that request them after you've been admitted, after you've decided that this is where I want to attend, you submit your deposit, and then you request a deferral. Typically what they're going to ask you for is like, what are you hoping to do with that time? Based on the timeline when we ask for it, we don't always expect you to be able to say like super concrete, like here's what I'm going to do from this date to this date, and I have this flight booked and all of that good stuff, but say, hey, like I really want to immerse myself in Spanish, and so I found a language immersion program that I'm looking into that runs until springtime, and then I'm going to come home and work through the summer. That's perfectly sufficient for a request for a gap year. So I usually recommend apply as a senior, even if you're thinking about a gap year, so that you can use the support of your school counselor as you go through the process.
Awesome. Wow, counseling department, fantastic job. But we've done a couple of different iterations of junior night, and this was really a fantastic one. So thank you so much. Thank you to our guests. You just got a ton of information. You may remember like a fraction of it. So just know the counselors are here for you, and school's here for you. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thanks everyone. Happy New Year.